Better grab your swords because today's video is going to take you, the typical boring Ninjala droner, into an incredibly flashy anime swordsman. Virgil, Zenitsu, and even Zoro will be groveling at your feet when this weapon guide molds you into the perfect anime swordsman, Ninjala style. Hello ladies and gentlemen and all the core gamers out there, CAJman777 here to bring you yet another Ninjala weapon guide. Today, we're going to be covering the latest addition to Ninjala's arsenal that's quickly overtaking the Western meta, the Cross Katanas. So, if you're ready for this weapon guide and you want to see more of them and other amazing content like this on the channel, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get started with today's video. Like all my other videos in the weapon guide series, this video is an in-depth analysis and breakdown of everything the new Cross Katana weapons have to offer. Whether you're just starting out with this weapon or you want a few tips and tricks, this is the guide for you. I'll cover everything from the gum kits right down to the weapon combos, so you can use the weapons. However, like some of my previous guides, there's bound to be some repeat information, but please keep in mind, throughout this entire guide, it is not the be-all, end-all guide for these weapons, as every weapon is subject to change as patches come out and Ninjala moves forward. The Cross Katanas are literally what every anime swordsman becomes at the peak of their power. Highly offensive weapons with loads of mix-up options, you'll be slicing opponents into smoking sexy style pinatas with ease. They offer users a health total that matches the Ninjala's base health pool of 300 as well as 95 base movement speed, making it a little bit slower than standard katanas while running. And unlike the katanas we talked about in a previous guide, which I have a whole playlist that goes over every single weapon if you missed out on a guide, these Cross Katanas are a completely new weapon class. This means their movesets, abilities, are vastly different from what beginners might be used to. So let's start by taking a look at the first sword of the Cross Katana kit, the Slash Kicks X. The Slash Kicks X is an offensive nightmare for those who aren't prepared for it. With the ability to jump in and out of fights at will, the Slash Kicks can be a nuisance to those unprepared. Having a strong overall kit as well as a powerful ninjutsu that makes this weapon nigh unkillable in face-to-face combat, your opponents won't know what hit them before it's way too late. Starting off, the Slash Kicks has the gum shoot, gum shot, or shot gum, as I like to call it. It's a literal shotgun. It is a short to mid-range gum shot that functions like a shotgun. When used and aimed properly at a medium or large size, gum shot or shotgun instantly binds any opponent caught by it. As a trade-off, binding with anything but the center of this gum shot can cause binds on your opponent to last a shorter interval than usual on top of the lower bind duration this gum shot already got in a previous patch. This, however, combines fantastically with the weapon in combat and works in synergy with one of the Cross Katana's abilities we will be discussing in this section. As for the gum ninjutsu, we have something that we haven't seen on a weapon in a while, and that is Blast Barrier. Blast Barrier is a mostly defensive ninjutsu with some offensive capabilities. While active, Blast Barrier creates a shield around you and your teammates. When this barrier is around you, you gain super armor against all attacks, except attacks that cause knockback, projectile and gum damage immunity, as well as reducing the damage you receive from all sources except ninjutsus that can instantly kill you, like Tenchi Muyo and Baiting Shark, by 60%. Furthermore, you can choose to end the barrier early, which will create a short-ranged 360-degree shockwave sphere around you, dealing about 250 damage to all opponents hit by it. But bear in mind, this is a very short-range shockwave, and it only applies to the person who activated Blast Barrier. It does not apply to your teammates. Your teammates do not get the shockwave ability in team fights. Only you do. As for the special and abilities for the Cross Katanas, this is where things get crazy, as these truly turn the weapons into the devastating powerhouses they are. Starting with our first special, we have Bolt Slash. Bolt Slash functions similar to Charging Slash on the normal katanas, albeit with a bit more pizzazz. Bolt Slash has your character charge forward, aiming to deal a single powerful blow to your opponent, which puts them into spin stun on hit. It has more tracking than Charging Slash and can be trickier to land due to it. But that also plays to your advantage because you can also catch people off guard with it. Not only that, but Bolt Slash has partial invulnerability on its startup and just before the attack connects. But that's not all. You can choose to actually cancel Bolt Slash early as another mix-up maneuver with a jump, guard, or L dodge. But guess what? It has one more special property. You see, If you bolt slash into an opponent that's already gumbound, this happens. Yep, you stylishly flourish your blade with an anime protagonist-like air to you, and the force of the slash deals a massive chunk of damage to your opponent. This makes it an ideal finishing tool, allowing you to end fights in the blink of an eye. It's pretty strong in its own right, but that's nothing compared to the alternate special the cross katanas have. Variable Stance. Variable Stance is the reason this weapon is taking the Western meta by storm, as Variable Stance is multifaceted in what it can do. It can counter, it can be used for movement, and it can even attack. But you don't have to select one of the options I listed out of those three. You can combine them when using Variable Stance. By simply pressing the special button, your character will enter an EI sword stance, and a gauge will appear in the center of your screen, basically on top of your character. This gauge gets drained when you use aspects of this stance. By pressing the attack button within a variable stance, depending on the input with your control stick, you can perform 3 separate attacks. By simply pressing the ZR button, ZR will fire off an EI slash, which can be used up to 3 times. These blades stun your opponent, are unburstable, and you can cancel it with a gum shot or L dash afterwards. Pressing ZR while holding left or right on the stick at the same time will consume the whole gauge and fire off a longer ranging projectile with knockback capabilities that is also unburstable, while also providing some utility if you can hit an opponent's guard with it. Unfortunately, the back version of Variable Stance is very inconsistent unless you're like slightly above your opponent with the back variation. Something to note with these slashes though is that the location of the slash, when it comes out, does in fact contain your character's hitbox as if they teleported to that spot, which can lead to some unfortunate circumstances at times like, oh, let's say this. Flying into a ninjutsu you're nowhere near, which is what happened to me in that clip. So be extremely careful. But we still have one more input to cover on Variable Stance. If you choose to attack in the stance by pressing ZR and pulling down on the movement stick, you will enter a counter state. In this state, anything that hits you from a projectile to a gum shot or even something like a power buster will unleash a powerful counter attack that will instantly break your opponent's weapon. You get 2 uses of this counter on a full gauge, and it can come out instantaneously if you press Y and then ZR down on the stick fast enough. But Variable Stance isn't just for attacks. You can dodge with it too. When in Variable Stance, by pressing the dash button, which is normally mapped to the L button, you no longer have an L dash. Instead, you find yourself performing what is essentially a flash step from Bleach. This flash step will quickly move you from one place to another quite a distance, and during this, you are completely invulnerable, even to ninjutsus, and you get 5 dashes on a full gauge. You can also technically stay airborne with this, as the dash moves with your input and camera direction. This allows you to quickly traverse the map and get out of situations if you need to with Variable Stance. But you have to pay attention, because when activating Variable Stance in the air without input, you will slowly fall to the ground. So why am I making such a big deal that saying Variable Stance is so good? It's because of something I mentioned earlier. You can combine these abilities. You can slash at an opponent with a normal EI slash before moving in with one of the flash step dashes, and then following up with another slash to continue your combo, or you can dash around opponents' attacks, moving in and out of their range, and you're only limited to how much meter you have left. Remember, the meter in Variable Stance doesn't decrease unless you use an input, so you technically could sit in it forever if you wanted to, and that's why it's so good and why it is taking the Western meta by storm. It does not have any decay. You don't have to use the meter, which is just absolutely insane. This gives you the ability to always have control over your situation, and it doesn't care about what your opponent is doing. And it only gets crazier with the abilities on these weapons. The first ability is called Strike Chance, and this one is quite simple. Anytime you successfully gumbind an opponent, you get your special back. This can be quite useful for things like Master of Change Bolt Slash and using 2 variable stances in one combo. So it's a pretty simple ability there. For the big weapon ability, we have Odachi. This simply increases the reach of the weapon to deal with some of that pesky projectile meta that's currently present and, in my opinion, overused in Ninjala. But with that being said, that will cover the special and abilities, and the slash kicks X. So let's take a look at the other cross katana kit, the Crush Pop. The Crush Pop, as you know it, shares the same special and abilities as the slash kick, so we can move right into the Gum Shoot and Ninjutsu. For the Gum Shoot, we have Gum Laser. Gum Laser fires 1 to 3 lasers in a long straight line with no homing, aiming to bind your opponent. While it will not bind your opponent outright until you use it at a 3 laser large size, it does give you plenty of area control, allowing you to make your next move at your own pace, or until your opponent makes a mistake. As for the Ninjutsu, the Crush Pop gets the final flash, Super Fling. This massive laser destroys anything it touches and can go through walls, players, and even drones, dealing 300 damage to anything it touches. Unless you are a hammer player with full health or have a barrier around you, you do not live this ninjutsu, essentially making it one shot. So yeah, both kits are kind of crazy. But personally, I like the sustainability of the slash kicks having blast barrier more than being an area control powerhouse with a big freaking laser beam. But both kits are very strong in their own way, so you can choose which kit fits your playstyle a bit more. But with that being said, that will cover the discussion on the weapon kits. So now let's see what they can do in action. Alright, let's start by talking about the Cross Katana's basic attacks. Unlike other weapons in the game, the Cross Katanas essentially have 2 movesets. One moveset is the standard attack set, while the other is known as the Zanshin state. You can only enter the Zanshin state after completing any standard attack, and a pink flash appears briefly on the screen. The timing on this pink flash is determined by the move you used prior to entering the state, which includes other Zanshin state moves, as well as other attacks. But like normal attacks, the input you choose affects the Zanshin move that comes out. You can also combo Zanshin moves via the pink flash back-to-back in a combo before resetting your Zanshin state, or you can split up your Zanshin moves in between standard moves to perform flamboyant maneuvers. So we'll have to cover both of these movesets, starting with our normals. Starting off with our simplest attack, by pressing ZR repeatedly up to 3 times, you perform a 3-hit combo, unlike the standard 4 with other weapons, with the last hit acting as a launcher for other moves. As for our Zanshin normal, you will dash forward, dealing 1 massive hit with blade after effects trailing behind you. Zanshin moves are pretty cool, right? Oh, we're just getting started. Wait till you see the rest of them. The Cross Katana back attack creates a small AoE around a designated targeted area. This area then unleashes 6 small judgment cuts, which cannot be blocked or bursted, and in total does about 50 damage. It's important to note that this attack does also not track targets once it is on the field. When the field is set, the slashes will commence regardless, and you cannot have more than 1 judgment cut field out at once. This is also the fastest move in the standard attack set to enter the Zanshin state on follow-up. Something also to note about the back attack specifically is that it is a projectile canceling field, which means you can cancel some projectiles from players. The Zanshin back attack sends an unburstable slash wave at your opponents, much like Zoro's pound cannons in One Piece. Going for the dual Zanshin attack with this attack, though, I have to note, is not advised, as the recovery time on this particular Zanshin attack is extremely long. As for the wide attack, the Cross Katana wide attack sends out 2 hitboxes and an AoE around the user, but you can only get hit with 1 of the hitboxes, and you'll still be considered hit by the move. The first hit does the total damage regardless. It is your basic entry or get off me tool in the long run. As for the Zanshin wide attack, your character will soar into the sky with a massive backflip as you perform a moonsault slash. Uniquely, this attack is also invulnerable to damage for a short time after it is completed, so use it wisely, as it's a good combo tool and escape option, as well as a solid combo finisher. this weapon's break attack, well, frankly, it's a pretty basic break attack, launching a medium speed projectile towards your opponent, making it a ranged break attack, but you can also combo it into Zanshin moves after the break attack, so don't forget about that either. With the basic attacks now finally being covered, as well as explaining what the Zanshin state does, this of course now brings me to my favorite part of the video, where I get to make up combos, and some quite effective ones at that, and there are a lot of them. In fact, there are so many you could come up with because of the way this weapon works. I can make a whole video alone just dedicated to cross katana combos, and maybe I will, who knows. But for now, we're going to start easy and then get a bit more advanced. Please note that for all of these combos, the Ninja Gum Lab is off, so you can see the true potential and true damage of these weapons without any damage boosts. On top of that, in this combo section, I will be denoting Zanshin state attacks by putting the letter Z and then a dash before the attack type. This will be very important for later combos. And finally, sorry to say it, but if you're a Crush Pop main, I'm not going to be using Gum Laser. I think it sucks, unless it's at max size. And Shot Gum is just way more consistent. So our first combo will begin with a standard ZR. Then you are going to follow it into a Zanshin normal attack. So another Zanshin ZR. Following that first Zanshin attack, you are then going to move into a Zanshin left-right ZR. So 2 pink flashes back to back here for this first combo. Then you're going to attack with one more normal attack and finish your opponent with a Zanshin wide attack, or Zanshin down ZR. First things first, like I said, I put a Z and a dash before the actual attack in this combo, so you know it's a Zanshin attack. And this combo, of course, takes advantage of all 3 versions of the Zanshin attack. It's a basic starting combo and a nice one to get the hang of it, as it'll teach you the timing of the Zanshin attacks. What's also unique about this combo is that the Zanshin back attack ignores S-bursts, like I mentioned earlier. So if your opponent decides to burst during this specific part of the combo here, that burst is canceled, and it renders it useless, which makes you getting a free follow-up and KO on this combo nice and simple. Now, let's get into one of the combos you can use with the special Bolt Slash. You're going to start this combo with a Judgment Cut field, so left-right ZR. Follow that up with the Zanshin version of the left-right ZR. Move then into a normal Zanshin ZR attack. Jump cancel into your Gum Shot, and then finish them off with the Bolt Slash. This is definitely one of the cooler combos you can perform with Bolt Slash, and you can even add a little flair with this combo with a dash in, potentially after your Gum Shot, kind of like that. Although I did miss the bind there, and I'll explain why I missed it there. Because there are 2 important things to note with this combo. The first thing to note is that the timing of the jump cancel after the second Zanshin attack, the Zanshin normal attack that follows the back attack, so this attack right here, the jump cancel after that is extremely tight. If you jump cancel it too early, your camera, A, won't focus on your target quick enough, making it harder to aim, especially with medium Gum Laser, or you're not going to technically get your jump input due to the end lag of the attack, and your opponent will escape. Or, if you do it too late, not only could Gum Shot potentially be out of range, Gum Laser might be a little still harder to aim, but you're not going to have enough stun time to follow up, and your opponent will escape, which is why when you saw the one example I did, I missed the Gum Shot, my camera didn't turn around in time, and I couldn't get the aim there. The other important part of this combo to note is that even on Sound Hammers, which have the highest health in the game at 345, you don't need to hit this first part of the combo to secure the EPO. The reason we use the back attack, the normal back attack on the cross katanas, is because I mentioned earlier, this has the fastest setup for running into Zanshin moves in the game, which is why we use it in this combo. So you don't actually need to hit the micro Judgment Cut to hit that, which is absolutely fantastic, because Bolt Slash is doing most of the work here with that extra additional damage on a bound opponent. So the next combo we're going to go over takes advantage of the unburstable variable stance slashes, And there are a few ways to do it, but this is how I do it. So you're going to start this combo by, of course, entering variable stance. Then you are going to use 2 normal variable stance slashes. Follow the 2 normal variable stance slashes by your gum shot. Then do 2 normal attacks, a Zanshin wide attack, enter variable stance again, ZR for 1 normal slash, or you could do it twice, and then a left-right ZR to finish the combo. This combo truly is one of the very few completely unburstable TKO combos in Ninjala. And it's also 7 hits, hence the name of it. If you hit your opponent with it, there is absolutely nothing they can do. As you saw, this combo takes advantage of the Cross Katana's ability, Strike Chance, allowing you to do 2 variable stances in 1 combo. Combo this with the fact that the variable stance slashes are unburstable, and this is a true 0 to death that has absolutely no counter. However, against a blocking opponent, variable stance is less effective, and the reason is because the variable stance slashes do not do a lot of guard stun. So, before you go for this combo at any point, make sure your opponent has their guard down, or try and mix them up. You only technically need 2 slashes of this combo to make it work. Picking your movement with the variable stance is vital in mastering this combo, because another thing I also should mention about this is that if you're too far away, this combo doesn't work. So you want, like, if you're this distance away, especially with something like Gum Shot, you can hit this, but you have to walk up close enough to then bind them. So distance management with this combo is key. If you're using Gum Laser, you do have a bit more of an advantage, because if you have the large Gum Laser, you can get that insta-bind. But with something like Gum Shot, sometimes a little simple dash-in is all you need to fix the combo. And finally, we have a ninjutsu combo. And this one, honestly, this one's really simple. It works with laser, or it works, of course, with the blast barrier. And for this combo to work, if you are using the slash kick attacks, you do want to have your blast barrier on. So this combo is pretty simple and is as follows. You're just going to do a normal downward ZR, followed by a normal ZR. There is no Zanshin moves here. Then you are going to jump cancel into your Gum Shot, and then press X. So yeah, like most ninjutsu combos, ninjutsus do a bunch of damage, so all you really need is to successfully pull this off is a singular gum bind after a bit of damage. So, really easy one there. Probably the easiest combo in this section. I know the Zanshin moves are a lot to take in, especially for you newer players, but get used to using these pink flash moves, because these pink flashes are really important, and you can do some really cool stuff like that. I mean, I just kind of made that up on the fly, but you can do some really neat stuff with these moves and the Zanshin state of attacks. I mean, there's so many options. Like I said, there is like just a great amount of versatility with these combos, and they're all the more fun to use because of it. And it's because of this versatility that I also think a lot of people are picking these weapons up, especially here in the western side of Ninjala. But with that being said, this is the last combo I'm going to be covering in this section, which means it's time to move on to our final section of the video, where we talk about what Shinobi cards are recommended with these weapons, and, if any, the weapon's weaknesses. Now, of course, as we get into this section, I'd like to note that these are my recommended Shinobi card preferences, and mine might be different to yours, but the way I set up my cards is to give everybody kind of a general idea of what you'll want when you're building a cross katana kit. So, firstly, the Shinobi cards you'd be using depends on whether you want to use bolt slash or variable stance, as both specials bring something a little different to the table depending on your choice. What's not a choice, though, is ignoring the Shinobi card Berserker. Berserker is this weapon class's best friend. The cross katanas excel at fighting at basically any range, making Berserker a must-have regardless of the special you choose. Sure, you do a little less damage to drones until you get your big weapon, but the assist codes more than make up for that. Ninjutsu charge gain when S energy increases. increasing your S energy when you defeat a foe, or even getting health back when defeating a foe. Every code on this card is good. Run all three of if you can. Another card you're going to want to run if you want to play this weapon as a fighter is Turnabout Guard. Ninjala at its core is a battle royale for points. Your fights will be interrupted. Sometimes it can happen in nearly all matches and every fight you take. But as a fighting cross katana, keeping yourself alive with increased defenses in all aspects as more players show up to stop your fight is a good way to rack up those sweet E-pones while staying mobile. I personally would recommend the second assist code on Turnabout Guard, which shortens your gumshoe cooldowns when Turnabout Guard is active. But the first assist code, giving you health back after defeating a foe with Turnabout Guard active, is a nice touch as well. So that covers the two base cards you really want to run if you want to play cross katana effectively. Now let's get into something a little bit more specific. If you really want to be a pain as a bolt slash user, you'll want to run the Shinobi card Master of Change. When Master of Change is fully charged, hiding as an object on the map, catching an opponent with any damage will instantly bind them. No! For those wondering, if you decide to use Bolt Slash as the startup for Turnabout Guard, for Master of Change, it does not work with Strike Chance. You will not be able to use back-to-back Bolt Slashes. But you can still deal damage with other attacks in that sneak attack time frame to bind your opponent, set them up for the Bolt Slash, and then using the massive damage of Bolt Slash, finish them off. Feel free to mix and match the assist codes as well with this Master of Change, but the first and second codes will allow you to stay hidden longer, and if you need it, passively heal faster, while, of course, you're hidden. Now let's talk about the weapon weaknesses. Oh, who am I kidding? This weapon actually is probably the best weapon in the game right now, and I genuinely mean that, and it probably has little to no weaknesses. There's a reason this weapon is on the rise in the western scene of Ninjala. It has incredibly consistent damage, some of the best mobility in the game with Bolt Slash, and even more with variable stance. It has some of the most diverse combo routes in the game, second to only the claws at times, and frankly, they're just flashy and fun to play. I understand why a lot of people have been picking this up. If I had to say one thing, though, that I would consider a weakness, it's the cross katana's ability to guard fight. What is guard fighting? Guard fighting is essentially when you and your opponent are trading blows back and forth into each other's guards. Unfortunately, as a cross katana, you don't want to hit an opponent's guard with these weapons first, as not only do they have a bit more end lag upon hitting a guard, but you can't enter a Zanshin attack state when you hit an opponent's guard, with, of course, the exception of the normal back attack, which gets a Zanshin state regardless because they are considered projectiles. Meaning, in a defensive guarding battle between two players guarding, if you attack first, you will lose. So you have to find a way to open up your opponent before you decide to strike with a cross katana. And that is everything you need to know about the cross katanas in Ninjala. I know I covered an absolute bunch of information today on the new weapons, so I hope what was shown might have taught you something new. As always, of course, I hope you all found this video informative and helpful. If you did enjoy what you just watched, do me a favor and hit that like button, as well as hitting that subscribe button for more amazing content like this. And I want to apologize as a preference for why content might be a little bit slower now. I'm settling into a new job as well, so content will be a bit slower until I can find that sweet, sweet balance. But regardless, thank you for watching, and let me know what your favorite part of this video was down below in the comments section. But other than that, again, I hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, until next time, this is CAJ and 777 signing off. Stay safe, everyone.